Thank you all so much for joining us. We've got a great panel for you this evening, and I think you're going to get some amazing insight into social media and marketing, whether you already have your foot in that door a little bit or whether you're thinking about it. Okay, last few start Katie Needham, Kaylee Hart, thank you everyone. I'm going to start because I want to get to our panelists as quickly as possible. So just to say hello again, I'm Arielle Free. You are joining us on our Radio 1 Connects social media and marketing speech panel. This is part of a free series that we've been doing all year, all week in the run up to Radio 1 Big Weekend, which is happening on Bank Holiday weekend. We've had gaming sessions, we've had journalism. Tonight is obviously about social media and marketing. Tomorrow's about radio. We have fashion, film and TV events. There's loads. So some have happened already, and you might have missed them, but fear not, because they're going to go up in the BBC Careers YouTube channel, so you'll be able to watch them back. And you can still sign up for all of the sessions that are still to come. Find out the dates. All you have to do is head over to the Radio 1 website. It's on the homepage, and you will see all the information there. And like this one, it's free to attend and won't take up too much of your time, and hopefully will inspire you down a new path or a route that you've always thought about. So in our panel today, we have some fantastic guests. I'm from Radio 1. I do the early breakfast show. So if you're up and about at a silly early hour, then you'll hear me, or maybe you've listened back on BBC Sounds. Joining us today on our panel, I would love to introduce first up Seale. He is Senior Director of Creative Content at the creative social media agency Jellyfish. Hi, Aaron. You right? Give us a wave.
I'm very good, thank you.
Looking forward to this?
Absolutely, yeah.
We're going to have a Q&A at the end, so they're going to put you through your paces because we have like hundreds of participants. We're going to try and get through as many of the questions as possible, so you're going to have to like have your energy with you tonight.
Got the energy, so
wicked,
yeah, really
love it. Next up, we have Carrie Rose, co-founder and CEO of Search First Creative Agency, Rise at 7. Hi, Carrie, how are you?
Hello, really good, thank you.
Yeah, I heard you did a bit of a digging on all of us on LinkedIn before. That's very very prepped of you. I feel like you're super organized.
Yeah, I've kind of heard of a couple of guys on here before, but I had to kind of check them out and I made a few connections. So.
Love it. So straight in there. I love it. Well, thank you for joining us today. Max Nichol is an assistant social media producer at BBC Radio 1. Hi, Max. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you ready? I've got some gossip on you, so I'm quite excited about. I'll just mention one thing. Emmerdale, is that you? Yeah.
Yes.
Very excited about that. And last but not least, the wonderful Cassie Capozzo from Senior Social Media and Influencer Manager at Glossy Box, which is a fabulous brand I'm very a big fan of. How are you today, Cassie?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I was just saying to others, are you ready to like answer a plethora of questions, because we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end as well. So it's going to be like quick fire rounds basically to get through as much as we can.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
If you do have a question for our panelists, use the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom. You can send them in. We have a lovely team who are going to go through them all, because I'm sure a lot of you'll have similar questions, and we'll try and curate them and get through as many of them as we can towards the end of the discussion. But I'm going to get straight to it. Aaron, coming to you first. Can you best describe what your job actually is?
Yeah. My job is really fun and super collaborative. So ultimately, I head up my design team in the UK and LA, and we work on about, I would say maybe 15 projects at a time, making social campaigns. So for me personally, I'm in the design element. So I'm working with my designers to make sure that we're fitting the briefs for our clients, making lots of things from motion assets to static assets for a social campaign. A lot of the time I'm working with my designers to make sure that we are doing the best possible social experience that our clients want. We get to do lots of different things, such as being on premieres, making video productions for, say, like a date announcement, big beat, or a trailer. We get to do junkets with talent as well, which is really fun. We write scripts. So yeah, my day-to-day is a really collaborative session. I love it. It's hard work. We have to be agile because it is social media and conversation changes all the time. But yeah, I get to personally have a lot of different points of freedom to create through the concept to the actual production side. So yeah, I love it. I get to basically QC, which is quality control, all of our content that goes out. And
so you're the one, if there's a spelling mistake, it's your fault then.
Essentially, yeah. If there's usually a spelling mistake, or if we've got maybe some black frames in a video, that's probably down to me, and it shouldn't happen. But yeah, it's hard, it's challenging. But what's really, really fun is the different types of people that I get to work with. Everyone is passionate about it, and they all have different things that they're really passionate about. For us at Jellyfish, we love to have people that are really into things, super fans, because ultimately that's the best kind of work that you will produce if you're really into what you're making.
And you must be good at being a team player then, if you have to be so collaborative in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's honestly the only way that I think you can work, especially where I am in the position that I'm in, is I have to make sure that I'm listening to everyone and taking in all of their points of view, because ultimately that's going to be the best work that you can do. So yeah, for me, I'm just someone that helps to guide what our clients want, but also to help our creatives add a bit of spice to what.
Oh, I like that spice. It reminds me of that Deborah Meaden on Dragon's Den, when she calls racy numbers, spice and racy numbers. Here we are. Carrie, coming to you. You co-founded your company Rise at 7 just under 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, just coming up to 2 years next month.
And it's gone on to be hugely successful. Can you kind of describe to me what your day, like typical day, is within your role?
Course. So I am CEO of Rise at 7, meaning I do a lot of unsexy stuff to do with business and staff problems, etc., and growing a fast-paced company. But I also do a lot of sexy stuff too. So we're an agency quite similar to Aaron's agency Jellyfish when he was talking about that. So for people that are listening, an agency are basically, they work alongside big brands. Some of the amazing clients that we have is like Pretty Little Thing, we have Game, Xbox, PlayStation, and they basically help work with us to get their brand talked about across PR, social media, online as much as possible. So my day is wild. Like my day can range from creating big stunts, creative campaigns, working with the design team to producing creative assets, doing strategy docs. The interesting thing about working in an agency, but also working in social media marketing, is there's a lot of amazing creative work that you do day to day, but there's a lot of unsexy work you have to do as well. Ultimately, like we're salespeople, we have to sell ideas constantly. So yeah, that's like the bulk of my role, from running campaigns to selling ideas to clients to then executing them to global audiences. So yeah, it's a varied role, but I absolutely love it.
And is there any particular like genre of workplace, like brands that you work with, or is it across the board?
Across the board, which I love. So like the best thing about working in an agency is like one day I'll be working on Pretty Little Thing launching their new collection, or the next day I'll be launching the PS5 with PlayStation, or even working, you know, on the next football game with Labrooks or something like that. So like it's really varied, but it means that you have to learn a lot about different audiences, spotting different trends on social media. But like that's what I love the most. 1 minute I'll be on TikTok, the next I'll be on Instagram. So yeah, it's very varied, but you learn so much. And I've worked in agency life ever since I graduated, and I'm a bit biased. I love agencies.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's good then. That's probably why you co-founded your own company.
Yeah.
Coming to you, Max. I know that the content for the Radio 1 social page is quite inside out. I use it for my show on the regular. How would you describe what kind of your focuses are day to day creating content for the Radio 1 like social platforms?
Yeah, so I'm an assistant social media producer for Radio 1. And I only started sort of relatively recently. So I've been doing this job now at Radio 1 for only about 2 months, but already in that sort of short amount of time, I've had the opportunity to work on a really varied sort of fun range of different types of content, really, and to be involved in some really exciting things. So we make all sorts of different type of content, from like short videos and sort of graphic images, bespoke images that are sort of shot like in studios and things like that, and then all kinds of different memes and all that kind of thing, to essentially get people talking. And we want to get people talking about either things that go on air, so it could be taking things that have happened sort of on a broadcast from one of your shows, for example, Arielle, and reformatting that for social and putting it out there to get people talking about it. And then we also get people talking about big pop culture moments. So whether that's things that are going on in the world of music or film or TV, anything that we think that the audience of Radio 1 is going to connect with. And like Carrie was saying, it's super varied, because you can come in each morning and something new could have happened within the music world. Someone could have dropped a new album or a new track that we want to talk about and put out there. So yeah, you sort of never know what you're going to get from one day to the next, but I think that's something that makes it really exciting.
And I suppose the focus for you is very much ingrained in youth culture as well, isn't it? It's like being kind of having the knowledge of everything that's cool for our under 25s, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's it. And it's sort of knowing what, as I was saying, what those guys are going to be interested in and going to want to chat about between themselves and with us, and sort of get them hyped up about that. So that's fun.
And coming to you, Cassie, at Glossybox, do you have a particular audience that you cater for? Is it a kind of wide age range? Is it across the board? And what would your daily kind of task be throughout your job?
So yeah, at Glossybox, I guess like the key kind of like demographic that we have are females between kind of the ages of 25 to 35, but that doesn't mean that we don't kind of provide our services and our boxes for people kind of like younger or older. Like it's pretty much for everyone really to enjoy. My day to day, so I head up the social and influencer team for the UK. So I look after kind of our social media strategy from like, kind of TikTok to YouTube to Instagram to Facebook, as well as kind of supporting the team with our influencer marketing strategy. So that's like something a bit different. Like I remember like when I first got into social media, like influencer marketing was kind of not really something that people used to speak about a lot. And it's essentially just kind of another form of social media marketing where you get like content creators on social platforms to kind of endorse and advertise your brand and products for you. So, I mean, I absolutely love it. Like similar to everyone else, like it's really difficult to not love social media marketing. But it is like, such an amazing industry to work in. And yeah, absolutely love it. But I think my day-to-day, like, doesn't look the same like at all. Like 1 minute I could be like negotiating with an influencer, and then the next minute I could be proofing assets for a launch and for social. So it's very fast paced, very sporadic, but so creative. And yeah, I love it.
Well, I like that you said influencer and content creator, because there was a moment, wasn't there, where people were like, influencers can't make money from it, and maybe it was like seen as a dirty word, and now everyone's like, well, no, actually they're content creators and they're advertising your products. So like it was nice to hear you use both of those references, because I remember even like just everyone being like, oh, it's an influencer, it's bad, but essentially it's a job, isn't it? It's a role. It's people where they actually are working and being paid to advertise products.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the idea of like influencer is the case that they are influencing their audience to kind of get on board with a brand and support a brand or support anything really. So, but at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're content creators. They create content for our brand. So kind of we don't have to. So it's like a form of marketing, but kind of utilizing them and their audience. So yeah, I guess like, I mean, I personally like it is one of those that people have said that it can be seen as like a bad word, but aren't we all influencers at the end of the day? Like
I was going to say we're all creative content like makers, aren't we? We all have to use our brains to like engage our audiences. I want to go back to how you all began in the roles that you had. And Max, I dabbled in this a little bit earlier. I teased it because before joining Radio 1, you were part of the Emmerdale team, weren't you?
Yes, I was. Yeah, so I started over at Emmerdale when I was 17, actually, as a digital apprentice, so within their social media team. And essentially, I got started in that because I was 17. I was in my second year of sixth form, and it was getting to the point where I was looking at what my sort of next step would be, sort of post school. So I was looking at things like university. But what I knew that I wanted to do was to get into sort of the media industry and to work in media. That's what I've sort of always been interested in, and what my sort of passions. Like I was really into photography and video and filmmaking and all that kind of thing, and then sharing the things that I created on like my own social platforms, like we were just saying there. Everyone's sort of an influencer in their own sense, I suppose. So that was my background. And at 17, sort of as I was making those decisions, an apprenticeship came up, an apprenticeship position in the Emmerdale team came up, which I applied for, and ended up getting. And I just did a year's incredible sort of experience there as an apprentice. So it was essentially a full-time on-the-job experience, working in the studios, on set, up in the village, working in the production offices with the amazing digital team, creating loads of different content. And then alongside that, there was the sort of college course side of the apprenticeship, which ended up working towards a level 3 diploma in digital marketing. So not only did I get that 1 year's experience as an apprentice, I also got a level 3 diploma in digital marketing, and then it continued for another 4 years after that. So I stayed at Emmerdale as an assistant digital producer for 4 years after that, and had the opportunity to work on some really, really exciting things, covering awards ceremonies and huge storylines, and worked on 2020's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So sort of loved my time there, and that apprenticeship was what kickstarted it all, I suppose.
Amazing that you got the qualification whilst actually being on the job as well. It's often quite hard to get both of them whilst you're working full time. So that's brilliant. That was would you say that definitely helped you get your foot in on the ladder then, doing that apprenticeship scheme?
100%. Yeah. Like I said, I was sort of looking at going to university, but this sort of came around, this opportunity to get straight into industry and get straight into getting that experience, as well as, like you say, that qualification. So 100%. I think it was the right thing for me, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone looking for that kind of work.
Aaron, coming to you, you've done a whole range of different jobs. Like myself, I've been everything from a charity call center worker to a perfume floor girl to everything in between. Can you kind of briefly tell us the journey of how you got to the position that you're in now?
Yeah, I'll try to as succinctly as possible. So I guess for me, I went to university. I basically wanted to be a creative. I was lucky that in my secondary school at the time, they offered workshops to do 3D animation and modeling. So I did that and was like, okay, I want to go to university and do this. Basically got there and it wasn't quite for me. So I learned a lot, and I was doing, I was doing everything right, but just university was not for me. So I got my foundation and decided that I needed to get some real world experience. So luckily my lecturer was able to get me some, I guess, work experience or some freelance position for a game studio in Oxford. So I went off, I had nowhere to stay. I slept on some couches for about 3 weeks and somehow landed myself a job being a games designer. And so I was doing that for 3 years, working on titles for EA Sports, like FIFA, Madden, Need for Speed, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, became slightly disenfranchised with the amount of hard work that you did. Went traveling around the world, sort of came back and was like, what am I going to do? So even though I was doing like 3 jobs at the time, like I was doing crew work, which is basically building stages for events at like the O2. I was helping to sell food on the market stalls, doing like antique shifting things. I basically volunteered for a local community sort of initiative. And that was the trajectory to sort of getting me onto the creative ladder. So I was doing things like recording interviews of startups, fashion shows. It got me in touch with a friend that had his own ethical clothing brand. So I was doing screen printing, website building. We did our own exhibitions. I made a video about urban exploring. So shouldn't really say this, but I was going into places that were no longer being used, and we made a video out of it and we did an exhibition and it was really cool. And somehow, luckily, had a friend that I knew who was like, would you like to, I've seen you're really, really creative. Would you like to do some work for a company? And so, yes, I did. And it was a social media company. I'd never done social media before, but I was self-taught. I did all these awesome things from self-shooting, motion design, static design, and somehow it all just sort of came together. So from there, I worked my way up from doing things like Britain's Got Talent, The X Factor, all these sort of reality shows, to now a lot of the bigger pieces of campaigns. So we're quite lucky to work with Netflix, Apple, Amazon, and
Is there any brands left that you haven't worked with?
No, we're quite lucky. We're
I mean, what a CV.
Yeah, no, amazing CV. I was really, really lucky to be with a company. Actually, the founders also came from the BBC, Radio 1. They entrusted me really from all my self-taught skills to know that, I could deliver on the work that our clients needed.
Well, you've got so much experience across the board. I'm going to do one more question before we get to our Q&A, because I can see the questions for the Q&A coming through. I'm coming to you, Carrie. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of our industries. With a fairly new business, how do you cope with the competitiveness of the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I guess when we first launched the agency, I was originally living in Leeds. So I was in Leeds for 6 years, and Leeds is very competitive, especially when it comes to digital. So the first step there was to get out of Leeds. I knew that if I was to launch my own agency in Leeds or London, then I would get eaten up pretty quick. So
that's really interesting, because people always think you have to go to London for like creative jobs, don't you? So it's really good to hear that Leeds has a hub as well, and you then use that knowledge to be like, right, well, I'm not going to go to either of those places.
Yeah, I thought, like, number one, the hardest thing for anybody is to get talent, is to find good staff. And what you actually realize is to get clients and to get business, like, especially nowadays, you can work anywhere. Like, I could live in, I don't know, the Lake District and still work in social media for big, like, sexy brands. So location no longer really matters, as long as you just think strategically about, like, let's get rid of the competition. And I guess when we launched, there was just 2 of us, and now I have 70 staff. So we've grown rapid in the last 2 years. And to kind of stand out, there was this, I'll tell you a bit of a story. There's this video I watched recently, and it's by a huge marketer over on YouTube. And he talked about this thing called the purple cow. And this is very interesting for anybody that's like applying for jobs too. So the purple cow essentially is, when it comes to creative, social, advertising, you see so much online that, like, adverts popping up, like, that naturally users default to ignoring. We're just like ignoring all the adverts. We can't really be arsed with it. We're not bothered. So then when it comes to actually trying to capture attention, you have to be different. So there's that saying, like, is it better to be better than somebody or better to be different? So different is always the way. It's like driving past a field and there's a field of cows. And essentially, if all of a sudden, when you drive past these cows, you don't really look at them. But if all of a sudden there was a purple cow, you go, oh my God, there's a purple cow. So the idea is that you had to be different. So from day one, I made sure we looked different, sounded different, even from a social media marketing agency, like some of the people that we have, they're very vibrant, very out there. Instead of hiring like all elderly people with loads of experience, not elderly, but older people with lots of experience, we went for young, hungry talent. So we made ourselves look different from day one. And we did a lot of cheeky things that was a bit out there, being a bit rebellious to capture attention. I don't know if you guys saw a bit of a stunt recently on social media that went viral. It was the IKEA stunt, you know, the Bernie chair thing that was going wild a couple of months ago. I basically like photoshopped an advert for IKEA. And I pushed it out, pretended that it was an IKEA advert, but it weren't. It was just me in my bedroom, created it. And it went viral. It got like millions and millions of views. And everyone was like, oh my God, IKEA, that's amazing. And I just dropped a DM to IKEA and just said, you're welcome. And then straight away their marketing team got in touch with me. So that rebelliousness is like, that's the only way to stand out. That's how I felt at the beginning. So when I kind of launched the business, I definitely looked for talent and people that did stuff that was a bit out there, a bit cheeky, that stood out in the market. So yeah, that competition.
So many people would be like completely intimidated by doing something like that as well. They would be quite scared. So it's really amazing to hear that. Like, and also I would never think that IKEA would reply to my DMs, but you obviously got their attention like through it, and like you say, a very different way, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I love that. It kind of talking about what Carrie there said, Cassie, is about changing the game, being different. You must have to deal with a lot of trends and being on top of trends and being ahead of the game. Like, how do you keep ahead of those things and being on trend within Glossybox?
I think with this, like, it's quite a cliche answer, and I hate to say it, but it's just about being there and about seeing things and being on every social media platform that you can. I know it's one of those, like, with social media, like, I get FOMO really badly. Like, I know if I want to do like a detox for a weekend because I'm away or something, I do have that fear, thinking like, oh my God, there's going to be a trend that I've missed. And it is unfortunately just one of those that, because things go viral so quickly, you just kind of have to have your eyes and ears everywhere. And luckily, like, I've got such a brilliant team at Glossybox that, because there's 4 of us, we can all take it in turns. So if anything does get mixed, at least one of us can have the day off. So that's definitely kind of the key thing. But then also, like, there's so much material out there from kind of, you know, even like social media platforms like Sprout Social, Social Bakers, like loads of platforms do a lot of reports on trends, as well as like Social Media Today is brilliant as well. Like, they tell you loads of information about like industry knowledge as well, like as well as updates, like anything that's kind of new to platforms, like algorithm changes, all of that, they'll kind of be the first to know. So websites, like I said, like Social Media Today would be brilliant to kind of keep on top of things like that.
Can anyone access those websites that you just mentioned? Are they like for the public? So if anyone wants to get that intel and that research, you can access them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, they're all free. They're all easily accessible. Another one is Marketing Weekly. That's really good as well. Like that's, again, all easily accessible to anyone.
Wicked. I didn't know about any of those websites, so I'm going to bank that. Thank you very much for the show. Can make my show go viral. Right, I'm seeing all these questions popping up, so if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go straight to Q&A. Feel free to jump in with each one if you think you've got, or I can like if I think direct it to one of you individually if I think it's like specifically for you guys. This one is from Caitlin Christina Borst. She says, do you think the only way to get a foot in the door is a marketing degree? She's currently an English student and has just been elected as president of the Student Marketing Society. So she's hoping that she'll look very positively to employers, although she's afraid that they'll be turned off by a lack of marketing degree. Would you agree with that?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think you need it. I mean, I didn't go to university. I got an apprenticeship and then just went kind of like from job to job, worked my way up. So I don't think you need to be put off by that. I know a lot of applications ask for degrees, but really don't let that put you off, because I mean, there's people out there that have been able to kind of get their dream job without going to uni.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with Cassie there. I think the most important thing is to essentially be able to show that you want to do it and you've got that passion for it. So if you are doing your own socials, for example, whatever you're creating on there, or if you're creating socials for, let's say, a small business in your local area or anything like that, just anything you've got behind you to show, look, I can and want to do this, is going to be, I think, sort of, far more valuable than just the qualification in itself. Like I say, I sort of started as an apprentice, straight out of school, straight into sort of doing social media, and have ended up doing it on Radio 1. So it's 100% possible.
I want to jump on something you just said there, Max, about people's own social media, because I would say that our own social media platforms are our CVs, basically, especially if you want to work in. Would you agree with that? It's like very important to have your platforms look slick as, or like kind of themed how you in the areas that you want to work.
Yeah, I think so. I think So I'd very much think if you're wanting to get into digital marketing and social marketing, think about what you're putting on there, what kind of things you're talking about. Maybe if you're wanting to get into, let's say if you want to do socials for something film related, tweet about films or post about films on your Insta and all that kind of thing. But then also think about what you're not putting on there as well, and being careful to curate things correctly and make sure, like you say, that when employers or possible employers look at your social media platforms, that they're seeing sort of brilliant stuff and getting sort of a really good representation of who you are and what you can do.
I think that's really important.
I think for that girl in particular, she mentioned she's doing, I think, was it an English degree?
She is an English student and elected president at the moment of the Student Marketing Society.
In that, for an example, one thing that I think people forget is, especially in social media and marketing, mostly what we do every single day in our jobs is to create stories. And if you've got an English degree or working in that space, then it's just basically taking those stories and being able to tell them in short form. So an English degree actually sets you apart. So I like in my business, for an example, there's 75% of us have never had a marketing degree. And actually they come from a lot of English or journalism backgrounds or media or content creation. So I don't think a marketing degree is that important. I've got all sorts. I've even got like chemistry and you name it. So I think you find out what those skill sets are, such as storytelling, and just work out how to use that with your degree.
Yeah. I'm going to direct this one at you, Erin, because Matthew McLister, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, McLister, sorry, is in a full-time job in Glasgow and wants to change his career into marketing and social media. Without quitting his job or doing a full-time course, would you have any recommendations for going about this? Because I feel like you've done a number of jobs, so you might have some intel.
It's a great question. I think ultimately the way that I did it, and when I'm looking at trying to take on new candidates, is just to see what you're working on ultimately. So, try and be passionate about something. I don't know what that is, and seeing if you can, on the side of your work, if you have time, start creating something, put it on your social media. You know, if you're really, really into music, maybe that might be, I don't know, making your own music and or reviewing it, starting a YouTube channel, just stuff on the side. Ultimately, what I'm looking for isn't a degree, personally. You know, if I'm someone looking to hire you, I'm not looking for a degree. I'm looking for the work that you can do. And, you know, I started doing tutorials on YouTube. Quite frankly, that's kind of the way that I started. But then I started to play around with that. And then I put together a little reel, not of the tutorials that I did, but obviously the things that I was playing around with, adding my own expression to it. And when I'm looking for the next candidate, that's ultimately the things that I'm looking at is, do you have a passion for it? How are you applying yourself to this? So I would say, yeah, on the side, if you can, just try and find some time to work at this. It's all about commitment, and someone will see you. Someone totally will see you, and have the confidence to apply. You know, that's the main thing that you need, is confidence in this.
I think what you're saying there as well is that we have these platforms to showcase our work. And there's a number of different platforms. So everyone so far has said, you know, use your social media and whatnot. And if you wanted to be in social media, it feels like that's really key to like exposing those passions that you have, or like the storytelling you're saying, if you've got those skills, or the animation or whatnot. So I feel like I didn't really think of that before, but it's the first thing we do is when someone says, oh, have you heard about so-and-so? I go onto Instagram because that's the platform that I enjoy. And then I will see them, rather than, even for DJs, I won't go onto their SoundCloud or YouTube first. I'll go onto their Instagram and then click their link tree to see all of their stuff. So I do think that's quite a key thing that is worth kind of reiterating to a lot of people. Sophie Wilson has said, hello everyone, I'm working in an internship at the moment, and her role involves working closely with lots of PR and events agencies. Her question is, what do you wish your clients knew about agency life? That's a great question.
Great question.
Silence, Joel.
That we're trying our hardest. I think, yeah. Do you know what? It's a collaboration, right? And ultimately, the client basically has some money that they want to spend, and they have some KPIs, meaning that they want to get some results. And so we are in the business of experts to try and realize that. So ultimately, we need to build trust with the client, and yeah, kind of build that sort of friendship level. And the more that you can do that, the easier the ride it is. So on our side, we like to try and explain everything that we're doing. We like to back it up with past campaigns that we do. And ultimately, the more that you can build that trust, the more freedom that you get. But yeah, it is quite hard on the agency side.
I love that question.
Yeah, and having to be quite agile.
Kind of touching on what we talked about platforms, Victoria Bentley has said, when applying for jobs, is it important to have an online portfolio of some kind? And if yes, what should that portfolio consist of?
Yeah, sorry, go on, Carrie.
Yeah, just a quick example of somebody that I've hired recently. For an example, they've created a lot of just visual content for social media, and all they have is it placed on Instagram. It's called Advertising Aesthetics. You might have to check it out on Instagram, but all she does is post her content that she created. She had some ideas for Netflix she posted on there, and straight away when she applied for a role, she just sent the link to her Instagram. That's all I needed.
Brilliant.
Like, that's all I need. I'm not that bothered about a CV. I'm not that bothered about a cover letter. Some people might argue, but honestly, like, make it as easy for me to digest your content, then I know you've already got that skill set. So yeah, like just sharing visual examples, what sort of results that you've achieved, or even if it's ideas that you've had for brands that you've never actually executed, just create them and share them. And that's where it'll make your life so much easier.
Wicked. Catherine Daly has asked, obviously you want to speak positively about your jobs, but what would you say is the hardest or most boring element of your role? I love that.
For me, it's probably creating pitch decks. Like you constantly have to create PowerPoint documents explaining why you want to do something. And that's the time consuming part. Like when you're working in social, you're constantly selling an idea either to your boss or your client, and you have to sell it. So you have to get data and insight. I actually love that part of it, that research and digging, but yeah, it's a lot of document creating. But if you can nail that part, then you're onto a winner.
I'm going to ask this one to you, Max. I feel like you might be able to help with this one. It's from Kate Cornell. She says, hi guys, thank you so much for the advice so far. My question is, for someone trying to get into television and radio presenting, how best should I go about promoting my shows online and marketing myself as a brand? Is it better to create social media accounts specifically dedicated to my work as a broadcaster, or should I be posting work-related stuff to my personal accounts to get my personality across to my audience?
That's a really great question. I think I'd say that the first thing that you're doing exactly right is that you are, like you say, you've got a show yourself. So even the fact that you're doing that already and that you're doing your presenting is going to put you a step ahead of loads of other people. In terms of whether you have like a business account set up or a personal account, I'd say it depends, I guess, on what kind of presenting you're doing. But I think a lot of DJs and presenters have their personal accounts because themselves as presenters, that's sort of what they're putting across. So it's, in a sense, I suppose, when you are presenting, it's your personality that you're putting across. So if you can put that across on your own socials and get that sort of marketed out there and get people to see it, then I think you'll be on the right track.
Would you say there's any particular platforms specifically for broadcasting and television and radio presenting, or just the usual ones that we all know and love, like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and whatnot?
I suppose there's definitely scope for each platform and to do something on each platform. But what I'd say is think about how you're formatting bits for each of those different platforms to make them work best for those platforms. What sort of clips you're taking from your show, for example, and how you're setting that up to work best on individual platforms.
Love a bit of clickbait as well. Tease the content so then they have to go and listen to the show. I like that. Okay, next question is from Ty Lewis. As a musician, there's such a saturated market on social media, leading me to basically rely on unpredictable algorithms to help me reach my audience. Is there something that I can do to help increase my chances of reaching wider audiences? The big algorithms is a big thing, isn't it?
I think ultimately is your content engaging? Is it standing out? I'm not really necessarily sure of the whole algorithm debate, if I'm going to be honest. Ultimately, good content and storytelling, as Carrie said, will always do quite well. So ultimately, I think what you would need to do is to try and find out, is there a kind of a niche maybe that can help promote your music or your brand? I don't necessarily know what that is. That might be a take or applying a different style to what you're doing. Maybe that's adding some kind of storytelling elements to your music. Maybe you can sort of, I don't know, start to consider doing a "This is how I made it" sort of content series or something like that. Ultimately, I think what you need to try and do is find out what is that niche storytelling piece of content that you can do and put it out there and see what happens and adjust. Maybe that first idea doesn't quite work properly, but then try something else. You can be super agile with this. And that's the great thing with social media, is it doesn't mean that you have to put a lot of effort in to get out a lot. You know, you can be quite quick and adjust yourself.
I find it interesting you're saying about finding different ways, like when you said about breaking down your music, because there's a real trend at the moment, particularly for music production, of people like Disclosure and that giving you the breakdown of how they made one of their most famous tracks. And it's really like rolled out across loads of platforms. I find that so engaging, and I can spend hours going through those reels and Instagram TVs and whatnot. And then also you have the people on YouTube who are doing acoustic covers if they want to be in that more kind of pop genre, like what's the word I'm looking for, the folk or kind of more indie vibes. There's definitely trends within different genres of music, I'd say, where different content is being specifically made. Like at the moment, there's a real trend for girl DJs showing their skills by the decks to prove that we actually can DJ, and I love it. I'm here for it, because there's a lot of kind of doubters out there that us women can't do it, but we can, and I love that because I just get totally engaged in that content. And so I think it's quite worth having a look at the genre of music, particularly time maybe that you're making, and what kind of content you can create for that market. I'm gonna direct this one to you, Cassie, because Hannah, I want to say this right, Raisha, I'm sorry if I said your second name wrong. I have some side businesses and projects that need to be shared by influencers. I like that. There's a sense of urgency. They need to be shared by influencers. How do you think is the best way to approach them, and what expectations should I have?
So I think for that, like, you need to kind of figure out, like, if this is the first time that you're going to reach out to an influencer, I would just be very personable with it. Like, the way that we essentially market ourselves, despite being like a really big global brand, we just like DM them on Instagram. And that sounds so silly, but it's like, that is the best way to get connected with people, especially with these influencers that are so big on certain platforms like Instagram. And then I think it's more about figuring out like who is the right person for you. We've worked with a number of different influencers before as Glossybox, and some of them work, some of them don't, but the ones that really work for us are because they are almost like a copy and paste of our brand. They are the same kind of like authentic, like older demographic. So I think it's figuring out essentially what target audience it is that you're promoting and finding people that are in that really core like aspect of it. And then just like, they're people at the end of the day. Like, I feel like sometimes it can be like overcomplicated. Like, people can talk about influencers in a way of being like, oh my God, this is like a big thing. They're just people, and it's probably a really nice girl in a bedroom just like waiting for a brand to reach out to her. So just like messaging her and being like, hey, we love your content, I'd love to work with you. That just like starts it off. And then next thing you know, you're like on a call with her, and then you're going for lunch with her. And then it's like all of a sudden, like, you've got a really good like business relationship off of like one Instagram DM.
I do think the DMs are quite interesting because so many business opportunities come from that. But also, I mean, I do it myself. Put a lot of people in kind of like those ivory towers, like, they'll never reply to me. They don't want to hear this tune and whatnot. And I do always just think like, it's just worth, what have you got to lose by just sending one message? Especially like what you said there about targeting those messages. When people send me music that doesn't fit in my show at all, it means that you haven't listened to my show, and it takes you 1 second to go on BBC Sounds and be like, right, Arielle likes dance music, so I should send her my dance tune. If you're going to send me like a hard rock tune, it's probably more than likely it's not going to end up on my show. And it's not that like I think you're wasting my time, it's actually I don't want you to waste your time, because there's so many other people that you could approach like and target. So I think that's really important that you mentioned that. We've kind of brushed on this a little bit, but Imogen Smith has said, will employers look at your personal social media platforms when considering for you for a job? Yes and no?
Yes. Absolutely. I hate to say it, but I've recruited my whole team, and it is something which people will say that they don't do it, but at the end of the day, they will. If you're going for a social media job, we are going to look at your personal socials account. And that doesn't even count for people that you're hiring. That counts for anyone that we work with. So like influencers, we work with people that are like really big influencers who probably have someone that does their socials for them, but also like really micro influencers who have got like 5,000 followers who think that brands won't be looking. Like, we are looking, and it's one of those, it's not like we're looking for anything in particular. Like, I pretty much just look to make sure that the people that I'm hiring like can apply their social media skills to their own personal accounts. But if I think that you're really good, like after I interview you and stuff, like let's say you don't kind of, post like really like pristine images on your Instagram, it's more raw, it doesn't mean I'm not going to hire you, but we do look, and it is beneficial if you do have a bit more of a thought out Instagram account. Well, that goes for me anyway. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm a really big believer in checking people's personal accounts before you hire them.
Would you all agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those unfortunate unwritten rules. Yes, absolutely. Probably private your personal account is what I would say to that. But ultimately, when we are looking at candidates, we like to get a good overview of what they're doing. And ultimately, again, it's not checking anything bad. It's just seeing how they can apply social media to the work.
It's basically your CV, like you said before, isn't it? Hannah Govan said, what sustains a brand career the best? Having a few viral moments on social media that boost audience engagement, or a slow yet consistent engagement? Are they two different things, or can both kind of achieve?
You go, Matt. You go.
I was just going to say, I think there's sort of definitely sort of merit in both. I think that it's obviously really important to have really consistent, engaging content that people are going to want to come back to day after day. And then if you do get a few of those really highly engaged viral moments that draw even more people in, then you're winning really. But I think that, the important thing is that, let's say you get a viral video, those people come to your page, you want to impress them with what's already on there, and then keep them engaged with the stuff that's coming out afterwards. So having one viral video doesn't mean that it's like, do you know what I mean? You've got to keep them engaged and keep it going.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to direct this one to you, Carrie, because you've often spoke about people being different and whatnot. Ruby's asked, what would your dream apprentice be? And do you have any advice for people who are new in the industry? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Classic Zoom moment. It's fine. We've done 1,000 times each. Your dream apprentice, and do you have any advice for anyone who's new in the industry?
Yeah, sure. My dream apprentice would be somebody that is eager to play with different platforms and get stuck into different technologies. So whether that's the new filters or like playing with different tech on TikTok or understanding trends on Instagram, etc. So kind of somebody that's like young at heart and understanding really what's going on in their like age group is like the dream apprentice. So somebody that can create content but also understand their audience at that same time. I guess the top tip for somebody starting as an apprentice is just build, if you can, build your personal brand on a platform. Pick one, whether that's, it doesn't have to be all of them, by the way, just choose one. So whether that's Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, it can be any, and build up your personal brand in talking about something you're passionate about. So if it is social media, talk about what brands are doing, or if it is fashion, have a look at what the fashion brands are doing and create content around that. Personal brand is, I think you mentioned it before, is your own CV. It means that you never ever have to apply for a job again because you get job offers all the time. I actually offer people jobs every week that I find just on social media. They don't even apply for a job. I just go out and get them. So
wicked. Well, I'm kind of a continuation of that question is from Katie Austin, and she says, do any of you have any application advice? She feels like there's something that she is missing, because every time she's writing applications, she doesn't seem to be getting to the interview stage.
I'd say sort of as soon as possible within the application, as Carrie was just saying, have that portfolio built up on a certain social media platform, and sort of as soon as possible within your application, have that accessible so they can open up your application, for example, see your cover letter or you see your CV or whatever's there, but then most importantly, be able to really quickly access your portfolio of work and see that you love doing it and that you can do it.
There's also, I find ways when you're talking about CVs, like you don't even look at CVs, you kind of go out and like employ people yourself, Carrie, like find them. Is the CV dead? Like, or is the kind of CV be like enjoyed in a different way? Is it like through a reel or like a sizzle wheel, or there's must be ways to kind of make that stand out, but do we really need them anymore?
I don't think so. This is a big debate going on in our industry at the minute. So there's like this new thing called a creative CV, and I know it's been mentioned in a couple of questions anyway. So what a creative CV is not a typical CV. It's basically doing something out there to stand out. One of my favorite examples to inspire people is a guy called Nathan Bickerton. Check him out on Twitter. What he did is he was applying to be an apprentice with Stephen Bartlett, social media guy. And instead of sending a CV and a normal job application, what he did is he noticed that when he Googled Stephen Bartlett's name, he noticed he didn't even have a Wikipedia account. So what he did is he created a Wikipedia account for Stephen Bartlett, wrote all the copy and shared it on social media. He said, hey, Stephen, noticed you didn't have this. I've created one for you, done. And he got offered the job there and then. So all it is if you can show how you can apply your skills, as we've mentioned before, then that is a creative CV. I get sent creative CVs like every week. I've been sent like cakes, like balloons with like things in it where you have to pop and stuff, and that's not necessarily they're more gifts rather than actually showing your skill set. So yeah, definitely figure out how you can show what you're good at and use it in that way.
I'm gonna ask one more question before I ask you one final question we want to ask you, Clinton. This last one is from Anonymous. It says, I already work in social media marketing, but I find that I'm doing the same thing all the time, which ends up feeling quite mundane. So do you have any tips for making it feel more fresh and exciting?
I think the great thing about social media and working in social media is that like we've said, it sort of is always changing. It's very fast paced, and you've also got the opportunity to be as creative as you want to be. I think sort of depending on who you're doing socials for and what they're after. But I think it'd be a case of seeing what you can do, maybe seeing what you can change up, and inputting any ideas that you've got to make things creative, I suppose.
I had another one as well, actually, because we basically at Glossybox, we went through a period of time where we were pretty much doing the exact same thing for a while. And we just thought, we're trying everything. We're jumping on all these trends. We're not really too sure kind of what's sticking, what isn't. And then we thought, we've got people who are following us for a reason. Let's ask them. So we did a series of polls and we just said, what is it that you want to see from us? And that dictated our strategy. So I think that's a really key thing to know as well, because even you can go as granular as saying, do you prefer IGTV or Reels? And once you kind of know that, then you can figure out, right, okay, as a team, we're going to spend X amount of time creating Reels because we know that 80% of our audience want to see that. And I think, again, with social media, there is this big kind of cloud around it and everyone kind of gets a bit confused. I think sometimes just ask your audience. That's what I would do. It's so simple. And if someone was asking me, a brand was asking me, what do you want to see? And I told them and they actually started doing it, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to stick around because they're going to listen to me more.
Love that. Well, we've got 5 minutes left, and I feel like that's enough time to ask the final big question, which I always think is really useful in these things. And it's very cliche, but if you each individually had one piece of advice, what would it be? I'll come to you first, Cassie.
Oh, pressure. I think the one piece of advice I would be is just be consistent with applying for things. I know it can be really demoralizing, but all it takes, out of 700 kind of declines, you will get one interview and you will get a job. It's really difficult. And I went through that, having to go for loads of interviews and just not being right. Just keep at it because you will find something.
Wicked. Max?
Yes, I think it's something that we've touched on loads, but something that I was told sort of back pre-starting my career when I was still at school was show me, don't tell me, which essentially means if you want to do something, if you're interested in something, show that you're interested and that you want to do it by building up your portfolio. If you're into photography, get out, take photos, even if it's just on your phone. If you want to do social, build up your own social platforms like we have, because anybody can go to an employer and say, look, I want to do this. But if you can bring with you an amazing portfolio to show that you want to and that you can, then you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everyone.
It's a very nice line. Show, don't tell. Aaron?
The one thing that I've got going on in my mind at the moment is just having confidence, and I think that ultimately wraps around what Max and Cassie was saying is, just keep applying, have the confidence to try things, try out platforms. Don't be afraid if maybe you look a little silly. You will get better. That's the one thing that kind of got me through this is having confidence to fail. It's okay to fail. If you just keep trying and trying, you will get to where you need to go to.
Coming to that point, Carrie, because I feel like you try things that are different and out of the box. Have you ever had a situation where you've tried something and it's just gone, didn't work, and then that's fine? And how did you feel in that moment?
Yeah, plenty of times. That's kind of what builds up thick skin, I guess. I've had so many times where I failed for sure, and I think you just got to be confident in yourself, like you mentioned, but push on. When you really believe in something, in your gut, stick to it. That one thing is, don't ever kind of get that knockback and let it impact you for the future. Just keep going. So yeah, I've had that plenty of times.
And what would your one key statement of advice be for someone who wants to get in the career that you're doing?
I feel like I could say a million things, but what I'll say is try be part of some communities online. So I've got 3 in my head that helped me when I started. So there's one on Twitter called Great Marketing Examples. There's one on Instagram called Girls in Marketing, and there's Digital PR Examples on Twitter. So these are just Twitter platforms and Instagram platforms that are constantly sharing what the industry's doing, new trends, etc., and you make so many friends on there. There's groups that you meet up with in summer and have drinks as well. That helps make friends, but also for learning too. So yeah, be part of some communities.
Here's going to be my weird question, but I'm sure there is, but there must be social media agencies who can help promote other social media agencies, right? Yeah. Or does social media agencies do their own self-promotion? Is that a bit?
I'm not really sure on that, right?
Yeah, well, so would you ever use a company to promote your own company, or you do it yourself? I've seen it on your platforms, but would you ever use an agency to promote your agency as a social media company, or do you should be able to do it yourself?
Yeah,
mostly we do
on you. Yeah, mostly we do it ourselves unless there is really something specific. So if there's like some amazing like videographers or like amazing TikTok agencies, so that's the really ways that we would outsource that. But yeah, mostly we do it ourselves.
Okay, amazing. I'm going to wrap this up. I hope I got through everyone's questions. I tried to do them all. I had them in front of me, but I didn't. I'm really sorry, but thank you to our lovely panel. You guys have been awesome. I'm trying to like bank all the stuff that you've told me, because I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a whiz on my social media. I definitely feel like the first thing I'm going to do, ask my audience on my Instagram today is like, what do you want to see on here? So thank you for all that kind of advice personally from me, and hopefully you guys who have attended today's panel have enjoyed that. If there's anything you have missed, they will this whole entire conversation is going to go onto the radio, it's not Radio 1, it's BBC Careers YouTube page, and you can watch back and note down all those things. So that's the BBC Careers YouTube channel. We do have some other panel talks that are going to be happening, and you can sign up on them on the Radio 1 homepage, and that's it. That brings us to the end of our session. Thank you all so much. You're all awesome and wonderful in talking. No one was silent. There was no awkward silences. And that means you're all very, very good conversationalists, which is why you're all in social media. I really appreciate your time today. And I really hope that you all find that useful. See you later. Thanks.
Thank you.